Customer self-service is really quite a broad term. So in this, I think we're going to take more of a conversational point of view in teasing out some stuff about it. It's going to be conversational. It's going to be allowing you to be part of the conversation. So I will be looking out periodically, glaring a little bit, possibly, and I'm looking for you to help us move through this and to hopefully satisfy some of your interest in what we're talking about in terms of building customer self-service. I'd like to, though, start out about, see if you've got that up, engaging customers. There's really, I'd like to go a little bit deeper with the help of the panel up here. There's kind of two ways of looking at it. The process and activities that go along with the customer, and the culture of customer experience, which Tara has done a brilliant job of outlining. And what I'd like to do is ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell us which one is more significant. Which category is more important, the process or the culture of customer experience in terms of developing the customer self-service? So Bill, all the way down to you, if we can start.
Bill Redford, Keal Technology. It's a tough choice when you're looking at these and saying which is more important. The developing and growing a culture of customer experience, I might put slightly on top. Once you have that, your processes need to be in place, but I don't know how long you want me to go on here, but it's, so the second one, the developing and growing culture of customer experience with the thought that my broker understands is the end result.
Okay, Sarah?
It's so tough to choose one over the other, so I'm going to be that guy who goes right in the middle and say, Jeff Bezos from Amazon really nailed it when he said it is the culture from top down, bottom up, of frontline people as well as leadership that set the culture of customer centricity. That being said, once that is set, it is the process to deliver it that becomes the kicker. So if you ever Google Jeff Bezos Amazon leadership principles and customer centricity, you'll see he actually has them, and he hires by them and he fires by them. And I think he really nailed it. So I'm going to go with chicken and egg, where it's culture first, process to actually deliver it.
Oh. Okay, we can move along. Debbie?
My name's Debbie Olsen. I'm working as a consultant for Ingenie-Canada. It's a startup, and we're now in wind down. So we're one of the businesses that built ourselves up and is not sustainable as a startup. So lots of experience there around what a digital brokerage looks like. And I'll echo Tara a little bit to say, I don't know if importance is the right one, but sequence. I say you cannot get to the processes and activities to deliver digital self-service unless you have a culture of putting customers at the center to begin with. It's also those two categories lend themselves to, well, you can buy processes and activities from a vendor who will come and help you implement them. But you have to have a culture of actually standing behind that. You cannot get, there's so many priorities in your business, so much work to do, that unless the customer gets prioritized in the culture, you don't get the resource allocation that you need to actually go forward and make the facilitated through a vendor processes and activities. They can't be successful unless you understand what you want to implement from the beginning, from your brokerage perspective with the customer.
So the answer is?
So the answer is, I think they're of equal importance to do, but I believe the thing you have to do first is have the culture. You first need to understand your customer and what you're trying to achieve before you consider what processes and activities to layer in place to deliver that.
Okay. Ken?
Hi, Ken Sedgewick from Sharp Mobile. I agree with Debbie. I think it all starts with culture. Even though we're talking about customer self-service today, I think ultimately the culture within the brokerage needs to be thinking about how can we improve, how can we offer new products, how can we change, adapt. It's not just about customer self-service, it's about a whole bunch of different ways of doing business, and I think ultimately it comes down to the culture being able to be prepared for change, I guess.
Great. And Caroline?
Caroline Schweppe from Applied Systems. Not often I agree with everybody, so I agree with everybody. But one of the things I would like to stress here is that we are in the service business, and we talk a lot about the fact that we need to engage with our customers, and we are a people business, and we talk all the time about the value of this. So culturally, I think we understand the concept of providing good customer service, but it's an understanding of what good customer service might be. So is it shuffling paper more quickly, or is it actually engaging with our customers? So from a cultural perspective, and I think that's really where the priority is, culturally we understand as an industry that the customer comes first. Philosophically, I'm not sure we really get it. And I think it's up to the leadership within the brokerage community and the insurer community and ourselves as vendors to never forget that the consumer is the ultimate customer. And for organizations like ours that provide the technology should be very seamless. And I guess, you know, these implementations lose or fail or win based on the amount of buy-in from the organization that's implementing them. So I guess never forgetting that the customer is actually the consumer, and they just want to deal with the person. So if we can take all the extraneous stuff away through the use of technology and then have the access to a person at the end of the day to deal with the real issues that they need to deal with, I think we're all going to win out and to succeed as better business people.
So to be clear, you're landing on the customer experience side.
Totally.
Totally clear. This is very interesting. Now, folks, it's your turn. I at least in the short experience I've had with working with brokers, only goes back 3 decades. Process has always been the king in this stuff. And looking at Orbit and its origins, this was how do we do the process better? How do we optimize it? I'm not lobbying for a specific, but if you can let me know based upon what you've seen up here, moving forward in terms of self-service on the customer side, who is in favor of the culture first? Okay, and process. Aha, we do have a few. So this will be interesting to walk our way through. Does anybody want to comment yet, or they want to proceed with the panel? Go for it, John.
I was just going to ask the panel, where do you start? Because the process of building a culture is something that takes a long time.
Can you guys all hear Tom? Or would you hear better if I threw this at him?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, where do you start? Because it seems to me that the challenge of building a culture takes a lot of time. We can bite off processes a little bit at a time, so that's why I put up my hand for process, thinking that there must be some common pilot type activities that we would do to start moving us down the path.
Okay. Anybody else want to make a comment on this? So what about that? Who would like to address that?
I'll comment, and that is, yes, you can take some of the processes and the approach that Tara put up of top 10, pick something off that you can bite. Pick something off that you can bite, that you can understand, that you can implement, that is in the easy, low-hanging fruit category. But yeah, pilot groups, but at the end of the day, unless you have a committee that is focused and agreed on customer service, you can take a small group of people and try to deal with that culture, but not unless senior management who were responsible for the money. So it's easier to get the money allocated to the processes you want if you've got an internal culture that values that in the first place. If it's all very ROI driven, where the soft benefits of having a satisfied customer don't really make it on the decision-making criteria, then it's very, very difficult to come up with a cohesive set of processes that produce a customer journey that customers want. It's not just this particular one process. Not a bad way to start, but it isn't transformational. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Anybody else want to weigh in? I can't.
Tara's
Carol,
going
you
to.
want
Yeah. So I believe John is actually right. It is a bit of a chicken and egg, but when you start off, if you take a company, call it company widget, the widget company, and they are, I don't know, not that mature from a digital perspective. Before they say we want to be customer centric, by the way, being customer centric is a strategic approach to delivery of certain goals. So if you came to me and said, I want to reduce costs, I want to increase revenue, I want to increase customer satisfaction, I would say to you, one of the ways we can do that would be to be customer centric. Now, you would then say to me, well, I don't know what that means, and I would say to you, exactly. So we would first start off and say, we have to have rules of engagement of what we believe customer centricity is. It's not always about self-service, because if you think about things, if you can preempt the need for self-service, so you sent that text message, so I don't need to go looking to see if my policy was renewed, because you cut me off at the gate. But really it's about understanding, and going back to that Amazon example where Jeff has these rules of engagement. So what are your rules of engagement? If you're going to be customer-centric, do you get back to people in 48 hours? Is that your thing? Like when someone contacts you, you're always back to them? Is it that you say thank you all the time? Is it that you're rating the satisfaction? Because that is process, but to even get to the culture, you are right, we all have to agree to it. And it's going to come from a financial model top down, which is process. And the process is we need a set of boundaries to operate within.
Okay then, let's get started to dwell a little, or dive a little bit deeper. So Tara, I'm going to go back to you. I still find, I struggle with this a bit, that customer experience can be a little fuzzy in my head. But a lot of things are a little fuzzy in my head. So looking at the brokerage, what are some of the characteristics of a broker that really gets customer experience and lives that?
If I define customer experience, I do it really by a mathematical model, which is a great customer experience is the ability to facilitate when, where, and how the customer wants to complete their tasks in the fastest possible way with the least amount of effort. Basically, unfortunately, it's going to be 24/7. But through that, you get great customer satisfaction. So no matter who your customer is, they're going to have a mindset of their particular goals that they need to achieve. And whether it's in person or not in person or automated through technology, the faster they can achieve that goal with the least amount of effort to their level of satisfaction, they're going to be happy. And that's what happy customers are.
Okay. So Deb, from your experience, so let's look at this from the other side. What, using Tara as sort of benchmarks, for a brokerage that doesn't have a good idea of customer experience, what are some of the characteristics and what are some of the advice that you would give to help in that area?
Well,
And you can lean forward towards the mic anytime.
it's funny because in some ways it leans towards marketing and segments and so on. Know who it is you're talking to. All customers really want, says Caroline, is to speak to a person. That's true of a certain segment. At Ingenie, our target customer was named Kevin. He was 19 years old. He knew the word insurance. He did not know the word coverage. All right, so think about how that plays in our space. You're going to talk online to somebody, you're never going to speak to them directly, and they only know the word insurance. They don't know the word coverage. And you have a full broker's responsibility to inform them, and inform them to the point that they make the choice, you don't make it for them, and it's a full audit trail because it's done online. So we started with pictures. We just started with Kevin, here's Kevin, and then we hired Kevin. We hired Kevin, and he was part of the meetings and part of the group and part of that, which was a 19-year-old kid. And we kept saying, well, what do you think about this? Well, over time, it erodes. His ability to be helpful as Kevin erodes over time as you educate him. But he teaches you how to educate your customer like Kevin so that he can actually do online self-service. Everybody's happy with it. He actually makes good choices. But these are very strong boundaries that go around it. We did not have a legacy scenario, and we did not have a legacy set of people that we had to go through change. So we weren't talking from the outset about change management. We were talking about designing for change. Change is going to come. We've had regulatory change. It comes, it goes. We didn't say, oh, we're going to put this in place and then, you know, have some good change management processes. We said, let's design this for change. Let's take here's what 20 of our people asked us right away. Let's just take the FAQs, post them online, and if you can automate any of that stuff, it's small bites and it goes forward. But we knew the customer we were attracting. So are you attracting, 30 to 40-year-old university educated with a good job? Are they in Toronto? Are they out in Belleville? Are you in a farming community where you're dealing with mutuals? And that, again, you have to speak the language, and language was a big, big part of it. So we looked at customer apps elsewhere. We went and all we could find was quote apps because we built an online bind app, but we couldn't find one to emulate other than the parent companies, over the pond. But it was a huge difference of language. Many of our competitors at the time, it started with, what's the effective date of your policy coverage? Kevin couldn't fill that line in. He didn't have a friggin' clue. Insurance start date we came with. What's your insurance start date? And so you'll see, educating the customer doesn't mean teaching him the insurance glossary. Okay, many people think, oh yeah, I'm going to educate him on all the words in the application and everything we do. And that is not what Kevin wants. He's happy for you to be the expert, for you to know, but he wants you to talk to him in language that he understands, choices that are reasonable and make sense for him, and at the time, at the place, and in the way, which is not typically to a person. When his mom goes to pay for it, she phones us. Okay, so again, you have layers of customers. It's not always just, of course, your one customer. You've got families and households and how that approach goes. So anyway, I've spoken too long, and thanks.
So Ken, with some of the brokers that you've been working with, how do you sense that they're moving towards this customer experience, moving towards some of the data that's required for it, and stuff like that?
Well, as far as our customers, the answer is yes, because they've gone they've gone with us, so they're definitely on that track. But I think I just want to highlight on Debbie's point. Customer experience is just it's just the buzzword. Ultimately, we have to do business the way the customer wants to do business. And there's a lot of brokerages in this room that say, well, yeah, I've got Kevin, the 19-year-old, but I also have Jim, the 60-year-old. And he wants to walk in my door. That's fine. The people that want to walk in the door, that's great. The people that want to call you, that's great too. But there's some people out there that want to do business this way, and if you're not offering it, they're not going to ask you for it. They're just going to go somewhere else, right? So, I think in terms of the customer experience, I lost the train of thought. Sorry, completely lost it.
That's okay.
But you started with fuzziness, and customer journey is how we spoke about it. We didn't talk about the customer experience. We talked about, because it was easier for our people to learn it as the customer journey. How do they interact to start? What happens next? What happens? And we made every employee go through that. There was no customer who had any kind of an issue who phoned who had not personally gone through it themselves. They knew what the online app looked like. They knew what the mobile app looked like for scoring and feedback. Otherwise, you're looking at your broker management system and your client is looking at different software.
Okay, last question before, Carol, I'd like you to maybe comment. You've worked with brokers a lot over the years in making things work. Do you see this moving in the direction of building the business around the idea of customer experience, or is it more transactional? Or is it transactional at this point?
I think it's probably both, and I hate giving fuzzy comments like that, but I think it's probably both. But I want to take a step back for a moment to just talk about our experience on our world of customer service and customer experience for what we refer to as the digital broker. So we have a huge amount of uptick for the services, similar to Sharp. Lots of demand for mobile tools to be made available to our brokers. And from our broker customer perspective, the importance is to have that process embedded in their own business model. So the business model can't be negated by the impact of a customer service technology that has been implemented to your customers, your consumers. What we are seeing is that and it gets back to what Debbie was talking about, I'm not sure I buy the whole Kevin thing. Because what we're seeing is that, let's say we have 100 implementations of a mobile technology. The usage numbers are absolutely astronomical. The usage of these applications from the consumer-facing portals that we have are going off the scale. And when we think of the kind of demographic that the vast majority of insurance brokers lean towards, they're not Kevin. So they're us. And they're our friends and our families. And guess what? I do my banking by my mobile app. And I probably work for a technology company, and I hope this part is not to be recorded. I'm not the most technologically savvy person on the planet. You know, it takes me a while to get used to a new app, but I do it all the time. So it's us that are doing this. So it's kind of a bit, and I think I've forgotten where I was going with the question actually, which couldn't be the first time. But I don't want to lose sight of that. Yeah, but I don't want to lose sight of that Kevin isn't the ultimate goal here. Everybody is the ultimate goal. My 80-year-old dad uses apps. Better than me, actually. Right? So it's whatever makes sense. And I think that the focus for our broker community and our own employees and our experience with our brokers, I remembered the question. Our experience with our brokers is that they're really trying to do the best thing for them without having to expend huge amounts of financial resources and technological resources to get to the point where the customer feels that their needs have been met. Because a customer whose needs have been met, however that is, whether it's I want to get my pink slip at 2 o'clock in the morning, which you hear all the time, or I want to speak to somebody at 10 o'clock in the morning, which you also hear all the time. I think the important point is how can you make that process and that competency within a brokerage operation cost effective? The cost effectiveness is the important piece in all of this, because if you don't manage your costs, you don't have a business. So you can have all the customer service protocols that you want, but if you can't actually implement inexpensively, you're not going to have a business. So I think I might have remembered the question, but I'm not sure.
You did very well.
Did I?
You got right back to it.
Good.
I sympathize with Kevin, though. He's getting beat up. By all means.
Okay. So everyone's touched about it's not a Kevin, it's not a Jim, because it could be the opposite. You could have a 19-year-old who doesn't like technology and a 60-year-old who is fully on board. But it's really, as we've all touched on, about meeting the customer needs. And to do that, I think that one of the things that Tara touched on it was doing surveys and making sure that you know exactly what you have to deliver, because every brokerage is different. You're in different regions, you have different markets, so you really need to make sure that you're going to give what your customers need. If in a lot of the rural brokerages, that walk-in customer that they're talking about, well, they're not the ones that you need to give digital online access necessarily, but they might be. You don't know that. And that's where I think, as we've all kind of alluded to, is the top down. So you need to have the owners and the managers who are making this decision to add the survey on there so that you can find out exactly what it is you need to deliver. And then from there, you can go up with all the different technology that you have. Obviously, as has been talked about, you need to make sure you have the right environment internally to do the customer experience support. But then you have to give them the appropriate tools that they can leverage to make sure that you're giving that customer experience.
That's good. Any questions so far? Please let me know. I'm still here. Okay, we got somebody back here.
Hang on, Dave.
Throw it.
We're going to be shifting gears in a moment, but this is important stuff.
How would you suggest to prioritize? Because you can't be everything to everybody. You can't say I'm going to have the right process for the person who wants to walk in and only wants to write down everything in a piece of paper, and I want to be the most advanced digitally for everybody else. So I know from seeing some of the people in the panel, they actually probably have some good examples of, do I just say, I'm going to be digital, and I'm going to attract that group of clients, and I'm going to do it very well? Or do I want to be mediocre and attract a large number of people, but be mediocre in my service?
I'd like to answer that.
Well, I was just thinking about Ken. Did you want to take that one on? I mean,
Sure.
you're bringing in some new technology, but you're having to deal with the old stuff.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion, and get right back to you, Carol.
Yeah, ultimately, I think you need to kind of figure out who you are as a broker. Like ultimately, part of what Tara talked about, I think this morning, where you need to know who you're going after, who is your customer, and you got to focus on that. In terms of priority, you mentioned the person that wants to come in the door and fill out the form. You're already doing that. That's been how it's done for 20 years. So do you have the opportunity to move forward a little bit more? Do you become a little bit more digital? I think you really got to kind of do some self-exploration and find out who you are. To touch on Bill's comment, just surveying your customers. We've done that with a number of brokers where they sent out an email just saying, we're going to do a draw for a $100 gift card. Would you see value in having online access to your insurance documents? Via an app or a web portal or whatever. 2/3 of the customers that respond always say yes. It doesn't matter if they're rural, urban, older book of business, younger book of business. It's 60 to 70% of people say yes.
Carolyn, did you want to touch on that?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we can wait. So I just don't think that there is a choice. The reality in our world today is that we are a technological world. And I understand the need to survey, but we're wasting an awful lot of time surveying and then sitting there thinking about what the survey actually told us. And we're missing the opportunity. I always like to think, which is interesting working for a very large corporation, you have to think like a startup. So I would probably think more like Ken. If you don't move now, somebody else is going to eat your lunch. So I don't buy waiting at all. Actually, I think that we all need to be very focused on a digital strategy. And digital strategy is just a new magic word, right? It's just good customer service. We've just got more fancy tools to use. But ultimately, if you wait, I don't think you'll be in business, quite honestly. Too much surveying will not get us to where we need to be. I'm sorry, has that been hard-hitting for you?
No.
You're nodding, which is one good thing. All right, yes.
Wait,
Okay.
wait, Adam.
The
Can I
box,
throw this at you?
throw it right in my face. This is going to be terrible.
Oh, it's in fall. Don't worry about it.
Wendy will never make a basketball team.
No.
Check box. Just one question to put it back. I think like you started that, you said that you can't.
Right.
And my question back to you is, why can't you? And I know like we all have skill sets, I think, in certain things, but I don't think it's impossible to do both and be that. So my question was just, what's stopping you or limiting you from being everything to every client? If it's budgets, then I think there's ways to kind of get through that. I don't know if you need to answer that, but I think there's always an answer when you say you can't. I like the question, like, why can't we? Yeah.
And I'll add to that to say, cost-benefit analysis is everything, right? When you get down to the practical dollars and cents and the time and the people effort and what you've got to deal with already on your plates, if you can't get to a prioritization within your own brokerage about your own people, then ask somebody to come and help you get that priority, because it's not necessarily a priority, it might be more of a sequence. You have to start this way and then add that. And I hesitate to say it, but I mean, the banks, when they transformed themselves all the way through, they did something they had never done before. They took their customers and they segmented their customers based on value, based on lifetime value to the bank. They had never done that before. They didn't really understand how much money they had to spend on different types and different segments of customers based on how those customers like to engage. And that's a nice way, because that allows you to say, well, these are my digital customers. I don't care if they're grandmothers and Kevin's. They're just my digital customers across that scenario. So that's one practical way to think about it. Usually ends up coming in more at the implementation, when you're starting to think about what you can really do about it. And have you really understood, that you want everything, that you don't want everything, you want to kill this, you want to add that, you're leapfrogging and separating and isolating a digital organization, or it's going to be blended and implemented with what you've got. So that's it. Cost benefit, I would say, is big.
So, question, do you have FAQs on your web? Do you have a website? We'll start there.
I think it's
Is
yes.
it a mobile responsive website?
Yes.
Do you have an app? Of the mobile responsive website, do you have a logged in secure area to access documents? Okay, so you've already got the frequently asked questions. You know what 80% of your customers want to do 80% of the time. So for you, there's really only one way to go. To facilitate past that kind of fluff, which is just pure content, you really need to move into a secure area. Now that being said, that is a lot of heavy lifting on dev, you're throwing out segmentation, things like that, but you can leapfrog that. If it was my company, I would go look into some bots where I could literally put it on, chat with someone. Once I verify your identity and know that it really is you I'm chatting with, being able to share actual technology, like the actual document in there, and skip past all of that for now. Because there's multiple choices you can make. But again, knowing your customer, knowing the security aspects becomes quite important. But you don't have to do all of it.
So Ken looks like he wants to say something. This is going to be.
I'm not going to forget this one, I promise.
Just at the moment, this is going to be the last. We're going to move on to another area that's talking about this, but we can get back to this. But Ken looks like he's going to be really annoyed. He's gonna
Sorry, I don't want to get too technical, but on the challenge with today is we all talk about these legacy systems. The legacy systems don't only exist on the insurer side, they also exist on the BMS side. And I know who I'm on this panel with, so I'll be careful. But in Tara's point, if a customer comes to your website and they go to your bot, they go to your chat bot, and they identify themselves, they put in their driver's license number, they put in their cell phone number, something that's an identifier. There's nothing for you to get that data. Your customer service is only as valuable as the data that you hold. And the data itself, it's there, but most of the times it's siloed away in these systems you cannot access. So I dare say there's very few systems today, I can talk more about it, that you could get to a chatbot and put in your driver's license number and get your policy doc, get your PIN card.
But could you?
It is possible.
Last point.
It is possible.
Right.
It is possible.
Tara's got a last.
It's very rare.
Well, and then you don't have to go
We'd
that
love to
far.
see it though.
You could just agree, because of the silos. You could simply say, the bot could say, thank you, your request has been noted. Bob, your broker, will be emailing this document to you, and if he has any questions. So in other words, you can stop at a certain point and have a human come in and take care of things.
Okay. So we have Bob and Kevin.
If I could, one last comment, which is, that's a really good use of a bot.
I'm going to go sit down there.
No, that's a really good use of a bot, which is, I got your request and you'll get an answer and so. That's not a person has to be there, but they get an answer.
Tara.
These guys are poking the bear.
That's good.
Poking the bot,
All right.
poking the bot.
I'd like to get this down to a little more concrete. By the way, there's an awful lot of discussion on process, don't you think? That's just a side comment. The Ontario government's 2017 budget is promoting the use of electronic documents, including things like pink slips. Our Premier Wynne has said that the result will be reduced costs for insurers, which needs to be passed along to the consumers. This sounds to me like an opportunity to improve the experience as well as working with the process. So I'd like to find out from the panel, how are brokers, the ones that you've been working with potentially on this, how are brokers planning to take advantage of this? And I think I'll just start with Bill.
Okay. So, right now, there aren't that many brokers that know about this. It was...
Is that true? Let me stand it. How many brokers don't know about it? Well, how many brokers do know about it?
That's a positive question.
Okay, so good. So we made some progress over the last week. So it's emerging news, right? So what we don't know specifically is what that's going to mean. Does that just mean that you have to have the capacity to email documents out? Does it mean that you have to have capacity to make these available in real time? These are the things that we don't know yet. We are going to be working, and I think most of the people on this panel are meeting with the IBAO in the coming weeks to be able to determine a broker strategy that we're going to move forward with. Having said that, this is absolutely a catalyst to move forward in the industry. So this is, as was mentioned, online documents is something that, what was it said, 60 to 70% of Ken's surveying have found that that's what they want, that's what they need. Well, here's the opportunity to tie into a system that will make that available. And as Ken mentioned, there's a number of them out there. It is not that difficult to couple with it something perhaps like a bot, where you can say, okay, I want to make a change to my policy at the same time. Now that I've reviewed it, I want to make a change, and I want to submit that, and then it can be handled by a person. So we're not necessarily all there or can't afford to get there in a real-time scenario right now, tying into all the different systems that you need, but we do have to make sure we take steps. So as soon as things become available, we have to make sure we're moving forward with them. So making the documents available online, absolutely. I mean, we're being forced there now, which I think is terrific. It's a kick in the butt to get us moving forward. But having all of us have that right now, and then tying into a bot or another service that has that capability, it would not be a huge expense, and it's a terrific move forward for all of us as an industry.
So Caroline, do you have...
My sales guys are giving me the evil eye down here saying, speak, speak, speak. We're already there in so many levels, and I'm going to do a bit of a sales pitch, actually, and I know we're not supposed to do this, but we're sort of ahead of the game on a lot of things, and in this particular situation, I was thrilled when I heard that Kathleen Wynne's government had made this announcement. We have capability on our consumer-facing portal, and we have mobile apps that are available to our broker community to provide access to all kinds of stuff. And we've added some additional capabilities, which is the delivery of the pink slips, actually directly to the mobile application for the insured. So we would like to work with our existing brokers, as well as future brokers.
Let me just interrupt, because you would like to work with them. Are the clients coming to you at this point? Are they?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And the other interesting piece of this is, you probably know that I actually don't work on the broker side of the business. I work on the insurer side of the business. So when this conversation started some months ago that the legislation might change and that e-liability slips might be made available, I started making calls to all the insurance companies to find out what they were doing. And what they all said drove me nuts, because what they were saying was, we're going to wait and see. So I'm like, that's crazy. The insurer's responsibility is to provide capability and services to the brokers to meet the needs of the customers. Back to this again, right, the customer experience. So my suggestion is that the brokers take ownership of this right away. So there's all kinds of talk about, well, what does that mean? What does the e-slip look like? Right now, there is no legislation about the e-slip. The e-slip is there. Give it to your consumers and let everybody work it out. The regulators are meeting with the government. The regulators are doing all kinds of work. Wendy's waving at me. Am I out of time? Okay. But it's going to take us years. And right now, the expectation is that these e-slips are going to be available in September-ish, because they haven't even come up with the identified time. The other piece of it is, who's going to give a discount, and how are they going to control how the slips are delivered? What's the discount? So to me, the carriers should, quite honestly, be paying for this, which I'd love to see. And whether it's using your technology or our technology, this is something that the consumers are asking for. The law is telling us we have to deliver it. Within the world of applied, we don't have a plan B. We're only interested in the success of the broker, and if the broker needs to do their job right, they need to be able to meet the needs of the consumer, both legislatively and commercially. So I guess I don't necessarily agree with the wait-and-see approach that the insurance companies are taking, and their legacy systems are the excuse that they're using for not being able to deliver this, and we're all already there.
So many brokers do this today. So we get e-docs into our BMS. I know many of our clients email those e-docs to their customers. So we're already delivering to our customer today. We help our customers create Word docs that is a pink slip that we email to customers every day. So from a broker side, like we're there already. Like we're on leading edge of this, but with probably 80 to 90% of the customers having direct bill, that's the carrier issue. So we're already doing it as brokers.
I agree.
So with that type of advanced activity within the broker community, these folks, suppliers, can legitimately respond to those things. Is that, Ken, you're kind of reaching out to something. Is this something, or
Debbie, I want to get in on this, but Debbie really wants to speak here, so.
I'm sorry, I'm rocking in my chair.
Yeah.
All right, so when I worked for the
Kids in the
personal...
kindergarten, really, aren't they?
I know, right? When I worked for the personal insurance company in the 80s, we delivered pink cards by fax, okay, and by email, in the 80s. Direct writers, CIBC Insurance, RBC Insurance, all of that. Today at Ingenie, yeah, we take a PDF of a pink card, we include it with the documents, send it out the door by email. The requirement to mail a hard copy in pink is regulatory. That's all it is. So we do all of that in e-docs, and then we suffer the expense of also mailing it. So if you also mail it, then you're not really saving anything, and you're going to have a hard time finding a discount, forgetting all the vagaries of how that discount will be implemented. Think winter tires here, how all of that was implemented. But it will help enforcement tremendously. The banks and the direct writers and Ingenie have been saying for years, yes, we're sending you this e-pink slip, but if you get stopped, it's at the discretion of the police officer to determine whether or not he's actually going to charge you with driving without proper proof of insurance. Now, that's helped a bit with the database where, for example, OPP driving behind you can plug in your license number now. They know if you've got insurance when they pull you over, all right? So there's a lot more digital verification available from driving down the roads. But it's really enforcement for the customer, and it'll free brokers to do this without necessarily the expense. But there's also issues of security and all kinds of things in not sending hard paper documents. But email's a nice audit trail as long as you got the email address right in the first place.
Yeah.
I know we're living on time.
We're living on time.
Okay.
And Tara is going to close this one, so.
Oh, no, I got nothing to say on this.
The,
I'm a customer.
All right.
I just want the slip.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ultimately, whatever the discount is, you got to remember there's companies, especially the direct channel, they can turn it on day one. As soon as that discount becomes approved, they can start offering it to our customers like that. There's already insurers that are starting to bring customer access to their documents through the insurer. So in those situations, your brokerage, your brand is getting cut out. Okay, so that's super important. The other point I want to talk about is Wendy already said we're already emailing the PDFs, we're emailing the pink cards. There's a big difference here between putting that process in place of taking that email, getting that e-doc, emailing it to the customer. Do you have it automated?
Some of our customers do.
Okay, so some of it, like, if there's a difference between that process And having a system that just runs, that the customer can log into, their e-docs are there, their PIN cards are there, they're up to date, it's automatic.
Right.
They're very different.
Okay. So Tara, you're cool with this?
I'm good with this.
So I'd just like to shift gears a little bit. Technology is both an enabler and a disruptor, and the latter applies to people within your organization and to your customers as well. And we know that this can be a real barrier to change. We've got a lot of inertia that's built into this. So what I'd like to know is, and I'll start if I can with Ken. You both use the technology and you market the technology to others. How are you responding, or how are you seeing brokers respond to internal and to the clients? How are you seeing that as technology, some of the stuff that you're bringing in?
Yeah, so what we've seen as far as the staff, it comes back to the culture that we talked about. Senior management has to want to change. We do see a lot of struggle with, a lot of brokers do say, well, I've got employees that have worked with me for 20, 30 years, and they're not receptive to change. I mentioned this on our call the other day, but if anybody hasn't seen the Netflix HR policy, you can just Google Netflix HR policy. Ultimately, what they say is, we're a professional sports team. We're not your kid's rec team. We're a team, we're not a family. And so people will be cut, people will be traded as the demand requires. And there's another line in there that says, it's basically around poor performance issues a generous severance package. So, I understand that there's challenges there with staffing, but ultimately, in order for you to grow and expand and live in this world, to Carolyn's point, we have no choice. That's just the joy of being a business owner, I guess. As far as the clients go, the clients are used to this. If we could do a poll here. How many people book flights online instead of a travel agency? How many people do online banking? How many people buy things off Amazon? Or I upgraded my phone a couple of months ago, didn't talk to anybody. Just went onto the Rogers website, got a new phone in the mail. So our customers are used to it. They're just not used to it for insurance. And so there's a level of education there that the broker just needs to jump in front of the customer for a second and say, listen, you want to call, you want to walk in the door, that's fine. But these tools are available. Here you go. Here's how you get in there. We've logged you in already. Away you go. And once they're in, they're used to it. It's as long as the user friendliness, the customer experience is there, they'll use it.
So Caroline, how from your customer base, what are you seeing in terms of how the customers are responding to CSR 24?
You mean our broker customers or the insured customers?
Well,
Right,
So
so,
customer.
good question.
I'd like to start with the end consumer.
The end consumer, so that's where we're seeing the most exponential growth. That's the peak, and I was asked to step in here today at the last minute, so I don't have the numbers. I don't know if any of our sales team are here recognize the number of the growth, but it's huge for the consumer. It's not as fast as we would like for our broker customers, and I think part of it is a nervousness of changing the culture, making the expenditure. It's a big deal to spend a bunch of money on technology. But from a consumer perspective, I think the last numbers I saw was that the consumer growth of usage of this app was 10 times faster than our customer uptake. Blows me away.
So Bill, are you seeing the same type of response from the customer base in terms of being able to do that kind of self-service? Are they looking for that? And what's happening inside of the brokerages that you're seeing as well?
So what we're seeing is the same sort of thing. The brokers are not adopting it as fast as they could. But yeah, for those end customers, if they're interested, if it's giving them what they need, yeah, they're using it. We haven't seen huge numbers across the board on either side, but part of that, I think, has been the sort of the way it's been marketed, the way it's been put out there, and sort of the expectation that's been made for the user as to what they're going to be doing. What we've heard is a lot of the end users are wanting to do things like they would in banking and make decisions and make transitions that they really need to talk to a broker to make those changes. They can submit them, but they have to wait for that response, and so that's still something where we need to, I think, educate the end user so that they know that, okay, well, when I'm making it like an address change, that could be quite a significant change in policy and premium. So those are the kind of things that we have to kind of manage. Internally, what we're seeing from brokers is they're again, what Ken was alluding to, if you have people who have not used this, they're not comfortable with any of this new technology stuff, they're not really comfortable pushing it. They're not really comfortable encouraging their customers when they're talking to them on the phone saying, hey, next time you call, you could, instead of calling, you could just flip onto the website and access the information here. So again, you have to have that top-down sort of change in culture so that you're going to be giving this as an option and everyone's going to get on board with it. And if you do that and you're giving the information appropriately, then I think that this is going to be an easier push out for all.
Bill, do you think that we as the vendors I think we probably have some work to do to help the brokers market this to their own staff and market this to their own customers. And as I was thinking about this conversation today, one of the questions I always ask is why aren't brokerages taking this up faster? Because we're not seeing as fast an uptick as we are on the consumer side,
Well,
for sure.
I think we heard a very interesting dynamic inside.
Yeah. So I think that for us as organizations, providing these services to you as a community, we probably have a bit more work to do, I think. And I'm not sure even how we go about that.
So Tara, in this type of environment, where would either the broker or the supplier, where's a good place to start to get that internal inertia to break things?
That's a tough question because everyone's at a different
Well,
sort
that's
of
why we've been
maturity level. But not to pick on RBC, but I'm going to talk about RBC a little bit. We kept using the banks as an example of digital transformation. It's a bit of smoke and mirrors, honestly, it really is. I was doing some consulting with RBC and I was giving feedback on the website and he said, well, actually, I was giving feedback and he said, were you on the website? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, don't go on the website. He goes, go on the app, it's so much better. And I said, interesting, it is better because they didn't have legacy systems they could start from scratch. And I thought, fair enough. So they themselves are trying to slow a beast here, but have jumped ahead to fix this. Then it was actually in the branch. And I was standing in line because I needed to do a transaction. And someone came up to the woman in front of me and who worked there and said, how can I help you? And she said, I'm here to deposit a check. And he goes, well, you couldn't do that at the bank machine. And he literally walked her over, showed her how to use the bank machine, how to scan it because there's no more envelopes. So she was a bit confused because there were no envelopes, and how you could see the printout and whatnot. So what I'm getting at here is that it comes from all sides. For your older population, there's going to be a transition where you often educate a little bit and walk them through the benefits, and you show them the first time, whether you're on the phone and they're in front of their computer or whatnot. I think it's baby steps where you can leapfrog for the younger generation, or even now, mobile penetration has surpassed desktop, so invest in mobile technologies. I think that you need to move forward. And let's be clear, some of the insurance companies, you're right, I've worked with all of them, are super far behind. Not all of them are that much ahead on their own self-service. So you do need to, you guys are lucky, you're like the little kind of startups. You can be more nimble, in essence, you can move faster. You're kind of like the ING of the RBC banking, meaning they can get there, they can be one-to-one, they can do that. And that will help you create the relationships and extend in that you need to do.
So I promised you all 15 minutes to get involved with the conversation. We have 5. What have you got to say about this? What are there things that you're doing that other people should know about? Are there things that you'd like to know about that other people you think are doing? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Purple shirt.
So, sorry, okay, Scott and then Eric.
So everything's very interesting. I'm a Luddite, if that's the right word now.
Yes.
Everybody's geared up on AI and bots and self-service. Customers want, what is it a customer wants? Is it the customer-centric, derived by what the customer decides, how insurance should be done, decides what it is they need, is that it? Or is it what product it is in the industry we work in? And that's a moving target as well as the other. But the last 5 minutes here, there hasn't been anything about a real one-to-one relationship. What we're talking about is the transformation of our society, of how we interact with people. We're talking about interacting simply on the internet, simply electronically. And eventually the population is going to diminish and we will need these bots to do it. But we have to figure out how to make the digital process a true interaction, just like it is when we talk one-on-one. Because otherwise, going back to the very beginning of what Tara said this morning, we're going to be, when she goes and talks to the accountants, she's going to say, those insurance people, yeah, they're out of a job in 5 years. Because what Tara said at the beginning about accountants, we're talking about right here now in our industry. So I just mentioned the relationship part, you're talking about it, but it's not what we've all grown up with.
But it's still there. I think the big data, I guess the point is, how many customers do you have? Do you have 100 customers, 300 customers, 400? And do you know everyone by name? Because the goal always will be to treat me one-to-one. So if I call you, and even basic where you can see my phone number and a file pulls up where you know, I don't have to backtrack like when you call Rogers and go through every single identification thing possible. So I think that there's still space for the one-to-one relationship, especially in complex products, such as insurance and recommendations. I would honestly rather ask you 3 questions in 4 minutes than have like a 25-minute bot chat and get nowhere. There's no doubt about that. But it's the big data. So the worst part about the one-to-one is if I call you, and this is what people hate, is I have to go through, you don't know who I am, you have no data on me, like the fact that I've emailed you 5 times for something, that is the bad experience part. I think we're just asking everyone to get caught up and use data where possible to spend the time with the troubled people like me who need a bit of help, whereas the other guys can self-serve and are quite happy about that. There's always going to be people who have questions. There, no doubt, and I'm not a firm believer that AI is ready to take that over. I'm still a little jaded from the Microsoft example, but soon, 5 years from now, you are right. You're very right. I would be concerned about a lot of our careers.
Yeah. Technology is always changing, so I just want to speak. Today, where we're at, if we look at banking, you don't call the bank or go to the bank. Okay, business is different, but on a personal level. Pay your bills, check your balance, transfer some funds, but you might call them, you might go in to open up an RESP or something like that. We look at it the same way from insurance. Everything that's currently in that self-service environment today is just the easy stuff. What's my deductible? Where's my PIN card? What's my next payment? Where's my policy pages? That kind of stuff. We're trying to shift the stuff that we've already sent the customer. The customer's already gotten all this information. They didn't open it. Maybe they did. They checked to see if it went up or down 10%. They put it in the drawer. So if you can just think about if your office didn't have to issue a PIN card again. Imagine if all the customers just went and got their own PIN card. What would that do in terms of you being able to open up the phone to talk to a customer when you can really add value to the call.
We are about to get the vote, and I see one question. Is this a 30-second question?
Yeah, well, I had two, but I just want to put out one that I know won't get answered in my priority one, so.
Okay.
But I just would like to make a comment that we are doing some self-service in-house design rather than a vendor-supplied solution like CSR 24, not to pick on Applied at all, because it's important to all vendors.
Don't pick on us with that.
No, because we like them as a vendor in general. But what I'm saying is we'd like better access to attachments from the vendor because we're in a cloud environment and we're trying to develop our own in-house self-service environment. And there's no direct ability to access attachments in order to be able to provide those payment slips. So
And I'm sure that Caroline would be happy to address that.
Yeah.
No,
But
I
it's
think
just-
it's a
But I want to
fair
focus on the
comment.
question I'd like to have answered though, but we can
Sure.
just sort of think about that internally. But in terms of apps versus mobile aware sites, I'd like your input on which should be a priority, because personally, I'm finding people are getting tired of having so many apps on their cell phones, and they end up with screens and screens of apps. So we're focused more on having very effective searching capability by Google search to find our website and make it very mobile friendly in order to access the self-service functionality. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, if an app is still really a priority.
We got.
I'll do two things and then I'll pass it over to mobile. We've seen huge stats on this from a customer service perspective. I'm actually not pro-responsive design. I've done enough tests over and over and over to see that if it's AT&T is the perfect example. We have 110 million customers on the handset. We have a completely separate app for my AT&T. We have a completely separate app for customer service. And the reason is they're very funneled, they're very fast, they're very focused on what they do. I'm not saying you build two, and they're very secure. So that, for me, responsive design, no matter how much you try to trim it down and copy, if you have a big website, it's a beast. So I'm going to have to say, if you asked me 2 years ago, I would say responsive design. Today, I'm 100% app.
Okay, and I'm gonna let you chat with these people offline because that lady is really tough. Very afraid of her. Anyway, I would like to thank the panel. I'd like to thank Bill, Sarah, Debbie, Ken, and Caroline for a very interesting conversation. I'd like to thank you for your involvement. Have a good evening.
And let's thank Patrick for moderating that, please.
No, I'm not worried.